Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a loop, having the exact same fight with your partner over and over again? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on what experts call demon dialogues. These are those negative, unwinnable arguments that just seem to leave everyone feeling hurt. And by the end of our time here, you'll be able to spot these patterns, and more importantly, you'll have the first step for how to get out of them.
Okay, so let's get real for a second. Does this sound familiar? You start talking about something simple, like who's going to do the dishes, and somehow, boom, it explodes into this huge fight about who's more responsible or who feels taken for granted. It's like you're both actors in a play and you already know the miserable ending. That feeling of being trapped, that's the #1 clue you're caught in a demon dialogue.
So, what are these things really? Well, demon dialogues are just that. They're negative, predictable patterns that we fall into. And here's the key. It happens when our sense of emotional connection, that feeling of safety with our partner, feels like it's in danger. This isn't about one person being bad or wrong. It's actually a primal, almost instinctual reaction to feeling insecure in the one relationship that's supposed to be our safe harbor.
Now, if you take away only one thing today, please let it be this. When you're stuck in one of these arguments, the goal isn't to prove you're right. It's not about winning. The real goal is to step back together and realize that the pattern itself, the dance you're doing, is the real enemy. It's about shifting from me versus you to us versus this frustrating dance. So with that in mind, let's look at the 3 most common dances people get stuck in.
All right, first up is a dance I think we all know, the blame game. You might also hear this called find the bad guy. This is that loud, messy fight where both people are just pointing fingers. The goal isn't to find a solution, it's to make darn sure the problem isn't your fault. And you can see the breakdown right here. The strategy for both people is exactly the same. Mutual blame. And listen to the language, right? It's all absolutes. You always do this. You never listen. But look closer at the goal. It's not actually to hurt your partner. It's self-protection. You're putting up a shield of blame to protect yourself from feeling criticized or hurt. The problem is, when both people have their shields up, no one can get through.
And here's a perfect classic example of what that sounds like. One person lobs an accusation and the other fires one right back. Every comment just confirms for the other person that they're under attack, making them more defensive. And just like that, you're locked in a cycle where nobody feels safe enough to put their shield down.
Okay, on to our second dance. This one is probably the most common pattern of all. It's called the protest polka, and it's a classic push and pull dynamic. One partner pushes for connection, while the other pulls away for space. So let's look at the 2 roles here. On one side, you have the demander. They're the ones protesting the emotional distance. It might come out as nagging or criticizing, but what they're really desperate for is any kind of response, just to know you're still there. And on the other side, you have the withdrawer. They're feeling judged, maybe a little inadequate, and it's all just too much. So they shut down, they get quiet, or they physically leave the room, usually telling themselves they're just trying to keep the peace. And this, right here, is the absolute tragedy of this dance. It's so painful because both people are actually fighting for the same thing. They both want to feel connected and safe. But their strategies are complete opposites. The more the demander pushes forward, the more the withdrawer pulls back. It's this vicious cycle where the very thing you do to try and fix the problem makes it worse.
And that brings us to our third and final dance, which is honestly the most dangerous one: freeze and flee. This is what happens when the music just stops. It often comes after years of the push and pull dance, when the demanding partner finally gets too tired to protest anymore. They just give up.
The air in this dance is thick with a kind of deadly silence. Both partners have just retreated into their own corners to protect what's left of their hearts. There's no more fighting, but it's not peace. It's just quiet despair. It can feel like you're living with a roommate, not a partner. And the main feeling, the one that hangs over everything, is just hopelessness. This quote just really gets to the core of what it feels like inside this dance. You start to tell yourself a story that the problem is you, that you're just fundamentally broken or unlovable, and so you hide. Because the thought of reaching out one more time and getting rejected, well, it's just too painful to even risk. So, whether you saw yourself in the loud chaos of the blame game, the frustrating push and pull, or that quiet, heartbreaking silent stalemate, let's just come back to this central truth. The dance is the enemy. Your partner is not. Just seeing that, just knowing that, is the most powerful first step you can take to finally change the music.
Okay, so how do we actually start to do that? How do we change the dance? Well, it begins with a really simple but powerful exercise called mapping your moves. The whole point here is just to become a detective of your own pattern, to observe it without judging it, so you can finally see what's really going on under the surface.
So take a look at this simple feedback loop. It's about slowing things down enough to see the chain reaction. Step 1 is your move. The more I raise my voice, or maybe the more I go silent. Step 2 is your partner's reaction. The more you shut down, or the more frustrated you get. And then here's the magic step. Step 3, name the raw feeling underneath your own action. And then I feel totally alone, or and then I feel like such a failure. You see, this isn't about blame, it's just about awareness.
Let's look at an example with Micah and Taylor. On the surface, their fight was always about Taylor being late, but when they mapped their moves, they saw the real story. Micah's move was anger. Taylor's move was to withdraw. But the feelings underneath? Micah wasn't just mad, he was panicking. His real fear was, I'm being discarded. And Taylor wasn't just being difficult, she was scared. Her real feeling was, I'm so afraid of the bad feelings between us, I can never get it right. Seeing that changes everything.
Now, once you see your cycle, the next step is to give it a name. It might sound a little silly, but it's a game changer. Call it the tornado, or the black hole, or that old thing we do. When you give it a name, you do something incredible. You make it a separate thing. It's no longer your fault or my fault. It becomes us against the tornado. And now you have a common enemy you can face together. I want to be clear, none of this is easy. It takes real bravery to look at these painful dances and admit, yeah, we're stuck. But that moment of vulnerability, that shared admission, that is the path back to each other. It's the only way to turn your relationship back into the safe haven it's meant to be. So if you're ready to start mapping your own dance, we've created a simple worksheet for you over at ResolveTogether. The link is right there in the description. And of course, if this was helpful, a like and subscribe goes a long way. In our next explainer, we're going to build on this and talk about how to start communicating those deeper needs in a way that actually brings you closer. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Now that you know the dance is the enemy, not your partner, what's one tiny first move you can make to step out of that pattern and start stepping toward each other instead?